Donald Trump attempted, as you know, to stay in power in multiple ways. One of them was this fake elector scheme. And so we're going to take a look here about how there's a group that's attempting to shed light on and highlight a specific individual who hasn't been getting that much attention, whereas Rudy Giuliani and Easton, or we'll look at in a second here, one of the other lawyers that got a lot of attention, have been getting discussed who were involved in this fake elector scheme. But another guy, Chesbrough, hasn't. And so a group is attempting to get an investigation going on into him about that, because it seems like he was one of the original people to pitch the idea. And if you forgot, the piece we're about to look at from the New York Times will also go through this a bit, but the idea was state legislatures and then governors sign off on electors going to Washington based on who won in the state and saying, we vote our elector votes for this candidate, right? And that's the electoral college process we have. It's kind of weird, but that's how it goes. And so it's based on who wins the popular vote in the state that is sitting those electors. And so the idea from these Trump allies was, what if we just get other people to say they're the electors? And then Mike Pence goes, oh no, there's two sets of electors. We can't decide. Trump has to stay in power. Now, again, Vice President Pence said, I'm not going to do that. He didn't go along with it, which was a good move. But that was the plan. And again, that is a non-military coup. You're trying to stay in power. You're trying to overthrow the lawful election process. It's real stuff. So let's take a look from the New York Times. Lawyers group asks court to punish an author of Trump elector scheme. In the emerging history of how a small group of lawyers aided former President Donald J. Trump's attempt to stay in power despite losing the 2020 election, Kenneth Chesbrough has received far less attention than others like Rudy Giuliani and John Eastman. I may have said Easton. But documents show that Mr. Chesbrough played a central part in developing the idea of having Trump supporters pretend to be electors from states won by Joseph R. Biden Jr., then claiming that Vice President Mike Pence had the power to cite the purported existence of rival slates to delay counting or to discard real electoral college votes for Mr. Biden on January 6, 2021. On Wednesday, several dozen prominent legal figures submitted an ethics complaint to the Supreme Court of New York's Attorney Grievance Committee, calling Mr. Chesbrough the apparent mastermind behind key aspects of the fake elector ploy and accusing him of conspiring with Mr. Giuliani, Mr. Eastman, and others to subvert our democracy. And so it continues on here, and we'll read, but this is significant stuff. I'm happy they're doing this because each and every individual that was involved in this process needs to be held accountable. Otherwise, as I've talked about a gazillion times since 2020, you're setting a precedent where this type of behavior is allowed, and that's the end of our democracy. So serious actions have to be taken. On November 18th, the New York Times writes, 2020, Mr. Chesbrough wrote the earliest known memo putting forward a proposal for having a slate of Trump supporters purport to be electors in that case for Wisconsin. He expanded the proposal for other states, including in a letter to Mr. Giuliani on December 13th, 2021. An email by a Trump campaign lawyer in Arizona cited Mr. Chesbrough as having had the idea for sending in fake elector votes to Pence, even though they would not be legal because the governor had not signed them. And you can continue on reading in this article if you choose. We will put it in the description of this YouTube video. But this lawyer group made up of prominent legal figures and former government officials and all those things is saying, listen, good that Giuliani and Eastman are getting investigated and getting the amount of attention that they need to get. But also Chesbrough needs to as well. It seems like he was the author of the original memo that laid out this idea, laid out an idea to try to subvert our democratic process. And so good job on the part of those lawyers, and we will continue to follow how that goes.